Kyle Juszczyk spoke. And my thing with Kyle Juszczyk is, man, he does a lot of talking for a guy who doesn't touch the ball very much, which is strange to me. Like, how did he become the spokesman for this team? But he's back and he's talking about the team, and he went on Sirius XM radio, and they really wanted to know what went through that old fullback's mind when he thought he might not be on the Niners anymore. So here's what he said about the direction of the team. He goes, the encouraging thing for me is there are a lot of stars, still a lot of stars on this team. He says, I mean, come on, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Brock Purdy, Jawan Jennings, Nick Bosa. There are some players on this squad. We're flipping over a lot of the roster, but we've got a lot of stars, a lot of key guys in place. Things can turn around very, very quickly. And I think we still have such important pieces in place. We can get the right guys in here. We can get them in our culture, how we practice, how we play, how we do things. And I think we can get this thing rolling quickly. What do you think about that?
It's typical player talk that he would say. He's supposed to be that leader on the locker room, so he's got to say that and feel that, right? And it's part of why he came back. And I'm not too against what he said in terms of like the stars. It's just the certain stars he names. Like Purdy's not a star, Juwan Jennings not a star, solid players not stars. But the other guys, like, I think that's another reason why
Jennings is a star.
Who?
He said Jennings is a star. Like,
no, yeah, I don't think he's a star. He's a
good
player.
Yeah.
Him and Purdy's not a star. Like, they're not a star. That's what I'm saying. That's more of like player talk. He's in there in his locker room, like getting rah chesty and stuff like that. Which, yeah, he's got to talk and do that part. But I the only part I agree with, like, is like they do have like several players. They do have like a core already established and a lot of money invested in, and those guys have to stay healthy and produce. And I think it kind of connects back to where you want to find those draft picks from this year and even last year, and like, all right, who's going to be the next core? Because right now we already know it's like, okay, it's Lenore, Fred Warner still probably got a few more years. And then we got to like, it's going to be slowly to start phasing out of like the Trent Williams and the McCaffreys, which is why Greg Papa started floating that trade idea out. So his comments to me, I think the most interesting one was when it was even before Lynch talked was like, oh yeah, like, yeah, the financial restrictions, man, they're not spending. So that pretty much is a hard line. Like, yep, it's like you guys got to do it, and then we're gonna hit the draft, and then we're just gonna let it fly. They're pretty much lowering the expectations down, which should be the thing, because we saw how they were last year with all these other extra players, and that didn't work. So yeah, how about you hit the reset button and figure out with these youngsters? But I still don't know where he's going with the other stars part.
I think this core is overrated. They've been talking about this core for like 5 years. They've been holding on to this core. I mean, what is the core? McCaffrey, who's an older running back.
Warner.
Okay, Warner, who's great. Bosa's great. Trent Williams, who's old. Ayuk was, but maybe not anymore. Yeah. I just think it's like it's not necessarily any better than like the Cowboys core or whatever. And I think what my point is, like, it's not about your core, really. It's about your team. And I think they had a core last year. A couple guys were hurt, but the problem was they seemed like a fractured, kind of a toxic team that was going through the Super Bowl hangover or worse. And I think that's what they need to address. Bringing back Salah should help that. Mm-hmm. But I don't really want to hear about the core anymore. I want to hear about like one team coming together for the first time since they didn't know the rules and allegedly in overtime.
I think you maybe think of something like they were a hot top heavy team that 2023 year when they went to the Super Bowl too. That's kind of why like they flamed out, and that's part of why they lost that Super Bowl. It's like, hey, your stars were McCaffrey fumble, Williams, all this stuff. Like it's like, great, these five aren't. You had going
Logan Ryan on the field.
That's what, yeah, God, I think that's pretty. Again, this is why they're so. Now they're like, okay, yeah, that's all of a sudden this team is so draft oriented. Like, yeah, now we want to put these guys, because I think they realize like, dude, we kind of messed up. Like, we were a little too late on like I'm trying to put too much into these picks emphasis, and I just think like, yeah, the way Juszczyk is so bought into that core, maybe even it's kind of the same thing. Like, you kind of go with the Cobble cliques, like, oh, that's their group, the little 7 to 8 of them, and then what about the rest?
What about us? And it sucks when you realize when you're like Dre Greenlaw and Travarius Ward, and you're like, you know what? I'm not in the group. It doesn't really matter. I'm out, and I don't know why, and it sucks. It would piss me off. Like, I could make every tackle. I could go to the Pro Bowl. I'm just not in. And there shouldn't be a clique like that on a team. It's a team. I don't get it.
It's just kind of the same way, like a tenure, like when you said earlier, like, oh, what does Kyle Juszczyk do? Maybe recently he's not doing much, but at least in the beginning, it's because when you're a tenured guy, you kind of get those stripes. It's like, well, we're going to listen to him. Like, sure, he's just a fullback and isn't like as impactful the last 2 years as he was, like, the first 3 to 4. but it's like your voice does kind of still carry weight. Like it can be the same thing for like some type of like even like what was it? Was it Matthew Slater? One of the Matthew Slater, I think, yeah, of the Patriots. He was a special teams guy, and like I was on there for years, and they all listened to him pretty rigorously. They took what his words to heart. So the same thing with Juszczyk. Like, you just pull back. But I think it's because like same thing. He knows how to talk. He's a leader. He's done things. It's like,
here's my thing with Juszczyk. It was my same issue I had with McGlinchey. So McGlinchey would often talk to the media. He'd do it a lot, and when he would talk about the whole team, and he would do it from like almost like he was John Lynch, big picture, what the team needed to do, team goals. Just like, man, why don't you just talk about not getting whooped on 3rd and 7, man? You're not good enough to be a team spokesman. You're not a captain. You're not a Pro Bowler. Like you need to just kind of focus on you and leave those questions to people like Joe Staley or Trent Williams or whatever. That to me, only a few people can talk like they're a coach or general manager on the team. Bosa does it. Warner talks like a coach, but Juszczyk shouldn't talk like that. You're not one of the best players in the team. You only play half the time. You rarely touch the ball. When SiriusXM calls you up and says, would you talk about the state of the Niners? You should be like, man, call Fred. Call George. It's kind of inappropriate for me to be talking about all my teammates when like there's 25 of them who are better than me. Who am I to talk about D winners? I mean, Malik Mustafa, he should be talking about me. Call up Malik.
He's still a great talker, so I'll disagree on that part. But in terms of like saying like let's maybe recognize the whole team, yeah, you should probably
Malik
do that.
Mustafa might be a great talker too. We'll never know because Juszczyk's hogging up the freaking spotlight.
It's really
nice
the guy's
haircut, by the way.
Huh?
Nice haircut, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'll make sure.
Look, if I get mine tomorrow.
Which one? The same spot? The guy who disappeared without telling you that he disappeared?
No, I'll go to a different spot. I don't want to say where I am. I got stalkers now.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I still don't get how the Juszczyk re-signing though is the one thing that like kind of confuses me. Like I always thought I always knew the writing was on the wall last year when he took that pay cut, right? Because you see like, okay, he has an out for next year, and yeah, they'll take that money hit, but they do release some salary cap. But then, okay, you sign Luke Farrell. Okay, that makes sense. Cool, Luke Farrell. He's probably going to slide into that Juszczyk role to a degree, and then you bring him back. That's where I'm like, wait.
What doesn't make sense is Farrell's making more money than Juszczyk. So does that mean that Farrell's going to play more than Juszczyk?
I mean, it's also. I mean, I think only Farrell's guarantees to are also 3.5, and it's like not all of it's going to get met. I just think it's like I'm just trying to figure out what the usage here. Like, are you just looking for?
Here's my guess. They keep Ayuk. I don't know. Let's say they keep Ayuk and wait for him to come back, and until then, they just go straight up 22 personnel all year. Straight up, or they just can't do 3 wide receiver formations because they only have Pearsall and Jennings, and they don't like Cowan clearly because he's 5'3". So they go 2 tight ends, 2 running backs more often. I don't know.